Hi folks, it's a pleasure to address you all. I'm Professor Venugopal Iyengar. I'm one of the person involved in information technology for last 34 years, working on future technologies all and all, and putting my thoughts into this thing. Today I intend to address something on a futuristic perspective on physical security in banking. Okay, coming to the point, the very first thing is what all of us know what is physical security. Primarily, we are looking at the purpose being protection of assets like hardware, software, data, services, and humans. We look at safeguarding people, information, equipment, services, IT infrastructure, facilities, and all other company assets from the physical actions and events that could cause serious loss or damage to the enterprise, agency, or institution. When it comes to physical security, one has to really be prepared to plan, put them into action, implement, monitor them, look at the responses that you get from them, and conduct a regular audit so that you know how safe, how secure they are, so that you do that. The challenge in physical security is we need to know where are we, what is our environment, what is our social environment, what is our political environment, what is our geographical environment. All these play a major role in planning our physical security. The next aspect that we want to look at is for any infrastructure, financial infrastructure, you look at defense in depth. It's a concept used to secure the assets and protect life through the multiple layers of security. If an attacker compromises one layer, you will still have to penetrate the additional layers to obtain an asset. Primarily, when you are looking at defense in depth, the objective is the sequence of objective would be to deter, to detect, to deny, to delay, to defend. In this sequence, deter is as you enter, you give an impression that yes, it will give an idea that not to, more like a preventive kind of a thing. If the prevention fails, you look at detect. If there is a detection, if there is a transaction likely to take place, you deny. If you cannot deny, if you miss on that, you delay the cycle of the transaction that is happening, or else you defend in such a way so that you are able to counter those kind of things. The concept can be used for various assets. It starts with valuation of each asset, risk assessment for key for each of these assets, where you look at the key performance indicators which will actually help in putting them in place, deploy security accordingly. You also look at the defense in depth with respect to performance based approach used to monitor and improve so that you know that your postures of defense that you have put in this thing are functional and very effective to meet with the requirement. If I take for instance a retail outlet, how the breach can take place. Primarily you look at the attacker who phishes a third party contractor. The attacker uses stolen credentials to access contractor's portal. The attacker finds and infects internal window file server. The attacker is able to infects point of sale systems. When the attacker affects the point of sale infrastructure, then the malware scraps the RAM for a clear text stripe data. It could be a credit card data or any of the CC informations, card informations. Malware sends the card data to internal server, sends custom ping to notify, so you get an input on that. The stolen data is exfiltrated to a file transfer protocol server, and you have all the information ready for doing a breach. So this mechanism helps in taking off all the information, card information from a retail outlet. Right. So this is possible in any area. right? That's what is the quick thought. And if you look at the physical security in the digital world, attacker is in a search of one weak link in the entire system, making all others useless. Aesthetics and functionality often take procedure, rather I would say precedence over security concerns. In the cloud era, the cloud computing is physical in reality because the data is physical, where although we call it cloud, right? The protection of privacy is another important area as per the personal information management system. Legal requirements also necessitates the safety and guidelines in hiring, limitations, classified informations, handling and software license use, etc. So we need to look at, there are multiple areas where legal requirements are applicable, and the physical security plays a major role. Right. Some of the physical devices, if you look at physical security devices which are very important in the scenario, are the gates. What do gates have? It could be a turning gates, or it could be a turnstile, or it could be a gate on the physical boundary. It could be a physical boundary with cameras mounted. There could be some Wi-Fi radio frequencies and those kind of things for allowing people to walk. There could be a mechanism by which the monitor person walking across from the entry point to the till he exits and tracing the entire through entirely through them. There could be a biometric mechanism for allowing the access. There could be a digital keypad which allows an access capabilities. There could be a barricade for vehicle to enter. So instead of banging the entire building and then destroying the physical building, the barricade is put, it strikes the barricade and protects the building so that your assets are safeguarded. You can have the what you call the bars, right, which is bollards. Bollards will again prevent people to walk and the vehicle to halt, kind of a thing. So those kind of combinations. You can also use a drone system to have a physical perimeter being monitored or safeguarded depending on what it is. So drones are again becoming a useful technology in the physical barrier studies. So all these things put together, they are physical security services involving gates, barriers, fences, bollards, window protections, turnstiles, right? And then you also have a mechanism of having in the warehouse area, storeroom area, some kind of camera which has a long capabilities, and those are being monitored from the command center sitting in the area. You may also have in the command center an access to all the mobile vehicles, secure vehicles which are carrying your currencies. It could have any of the valuable assets. Currency could be a domestic currency or an international currency. Currency could also there could be a metal which could also be carried in the hard this thing. And in the places like data center or storage areas, you may have a temperature control, door sensors, smoke detectors, water detectors, motion sensors, and then power failure, a mechanism to trigger power failure so that you can have the other side of the thing which is possible. And therefore, since these are all happening, you need to plan physical security control with respect to administrative, technical and physical, considering the physical aspects. Right? The physical aspects, the inner circle could have a control room and assets where senior executive sits, monitor, get those pictures on the area which is loading docks or electronic access controls, cameras and all. You then look at the building access, then you look at the perimeter part of it which is connecting to the road so that you are able to know what is happening, including the traffic and parking lots. Okay. When it comes to administrative control, we are looking at the site and facility considerations. what kind of automated controls that you can have. Will those automatic controls be able to meet with those 4 Ds or 5 Ds? When I say D, it means the denial, detect, deter, and then you deny, and then you have the capable of working on those kind of things, the 4 Ds that I mentioned earlier. Facility plan, again you look at what kind of setup or the facility that is there, what is the risk profile of each of those areas of that facility, right? You identify what is the critical path mechanism analysis to find what is the relationship between these kind of places, processes that are involved in securing, operations that are involved in these activities, the applications, identification of entities, the commodities that go in, besides the people who walk into the place, right, that supports the business functionalities, right. And this technology conversion between the old and the new becomes a very important thing strategically for any of these infrastructure. That is because a single point of failure can cause serious control weakness for an organization. You also look at the site location with respect to the terrain, the weather conditions, natural disasters, accessibility, transportations, facilities, and the disaster recovery plans pertaining to that locations. Otherwise, your bank functionality or your operational functionality can have a severe issue. You also need to plan, design your location based on the situation. Before construction, you know the facilities, ceiling height, flooring heights, flooring requirements, windows, what material to use for windows. All these things play a strategic role in designing those things. I've seen the banks preparing buildings with nice glass coverings on that. But when you go to the floor, when a DR situation takes place, when the exit area are actually in fire, you can't break a glass and come out. So there's no glass which is actually openable. So I generally, it's a good practice to have one glass opening among 10 glasses in each of those wall areas, so that you have a proportional amount of things for people to escape out. The intent of the glass protection was one is twofold. One is from the perspective of increasing the air conditioner efficiency by preventing the heat to come in, and the second is to build what is called as this thing. So when a fire or something occurs, the carbon dioxide that is generated or carbon monoxide that is generated gets stuck between the glass, the black glass and the normal glass, causing people to die rather than escape. So the purpose of which is lost. So it's very important to plan, design accordingly on all these kind of facilities that is there, right? And you look at HVAC, which almost all financial institutions building have that, right? You set up, monitor. You also look at the gas and water pipe designs, which is very important. In some cases, they are established, but then the purpose is not known. They are not operational when a situation, when actual tragedy or situation takes place, right? And you also need to look at how fire suppressor and detection systems are positioned. They are all need to be automated so that you have the right kind of situation which is possible. You also look at environmental crime prevention. When we say crime is an opportunity, there are zones where people would want to plunder a financial institutions. So if one doesn't plan the environment in the right this thing, you have a serious trouble in crime prevention in that area. So therefore, it's very important that you design your security framework, physical security framework in such a way that you would be able to prevent crimes. We'll see the solutions later. Securing data, again, if you talk about data center, if you talk about rooms with servers, right? You look at people who access that area. There may be less people, there may be more people, there may be client, customer visits to that specific area. All these are possible. You also make them human incompatible rooms in certain areas depending on what you store for, right? Or you think of what kind of material that you use at the design planning itself on the physical security. Some of these things are ignored by the organizations. They just think from the perspective of compliance that, oh, I maintain 18 degrees Celsius, I maintain 22 degrees Celsius, and forget about those kind of things. It's also important that you have a lighting. It could be a dim lighting or a bright lighting depending on the position and time or the hour of operations in that area, right? And you also look at what is called as how the basements are designed, how the top is designed in that particular thing. Any loophole or any this thing is there, any exposure is there which will cause somebody to attack or some mechanism to attack. Today drone attacks are also possible, remote attacks are possible, right? So what kind of attacks are possible? You look at that area and then position countermeasures to safeguard those kind of things. They all fall under administrative control. The technical control is equally important when it comes to the financial institutions. Most compromised area of security, since there is dependency on multiple factors, right? Like we'll focus on organization, authorizable devices, we focus on entity being authorized, communication channel used for authorization. All these things are serious infrastructural things which are generally not noticed except from the perspective of human part of it. Smart cards, microchips, integrated circuits, dual factor authentications, contact and contactless, that is wired and wireless kind of capabilities, right? Near field communication such as RFID and other proximity readers, right? All these things are very important when we talk about technical controls. We issue cards, we collect cards, we buy new cards, everything is there. We generally maintain inventory of the issued cards. We forget to maintain inventory of weeded cards, destroyed cards, alternate cards issued, right? Cards stolen. So they become a serious concern because they are operational. They, as far as things are concerned, right? So micro probing is another important area that you need to look at when it comes to chips. Micro probing, because you can change the content of a intelligent card, smart card. Obviously, when you change the content of a smart card, it behaves. It could behave like one which is authorized or approved kind of a thing. Then you also look at the CCTV, DVR, your pan, tilt, zoom cameras, PTZ cameras, right? You also look at auto track moving objects, zoom in all directions. You use coax cable for taking the information. You also look at wireless technology or IP enabled areas. IoT, Internet of Things areas can be wired, wireless, IP dependent, non-IP dependent. So all these combinations play a bigger role in physical security. So using these technologies are very important in the physical security arena. Intrusion detection system, when you say intrusion, the physical intrusions, right? Earlier in those days, you have light so that when somebody walks in along the area, the light would reflect the person, and from the reflection you know somebody is crawling down in some other area and you are in a position to catch that person or something like that. Then later on you had alarms which said when you touch something or pick something there will be an alarm, sound alarm goes, etc. But they are more electrical. Today you need to look at the device itself says that, oh, I am being taken away from this location or I am there in that location, whatever it is. They become very important from those things. So you look at awareness of signals, patterns. Then you also need to carry out periodic audits, monitoring mechanism, maintaining logs, analyzing those logs, understand what is normal operations so that you understand what is abnormal. Anything that deviates from normal is abnormal, so that you don't miss on those abnormalities and monitor it better. Automation actually helps in helps, rather accelerates the human thinking to such things, so that they are able to prevent. This technology and the administrative control can be deployed on the physical areas. So you look physical areas such as perimeter security. You can adopt it in motion detections area, right? In motion detection, for instance, the area where there is crowd on peak days, on special days. So you can actually identify using certain systems which are like heat, thermal enabled, infrared enabled, wave patterns, ultrasonic, microwave. All these things help in an area to know that where the crowd pockets is, how this crowd packet is, what is the behavior of the crowd packet, so that you are able to know that physically how to disengage them, right? So with the known time versus unknown time. You also work on capacitance, which is primarily looking at electromagnetic and magnetic capabilities. You also look at light, so using photoelectric capabilities of motion detectors. You also look at audio enabled, that means passive audio detectors, like you see in cricket game, that audio enabled detectors help you to know the thing, whether it's had a contact or no contact kind of a thing. So these kind of things helps in physical area, that whether something wrong has occurred or not, kind of a thing. You also look at the badges is another physical control, where you look at identification proof with a clear pictures, right? You may use an RFID badge, you may use a magnetic stripe, you may use a biometric. Any of these combinations could be embedded with the badge, so that you are able to get information that are untouched. For instance, a person walking in, if he is examined for his identity, he may feel embarrassed, right? The days are such that you allow them to walk freely and you know what is carrying, what is he, who is he, what is he possessing, etc. They become, it keeps the person elevated, that he is not being monitored, but yet you are monitoring the person with respect to the use of such kind of badges. So we come to the intrusion alarms. You look at deterrent controls of intrusion alarms, like closed doors, activated locks, repellents like loud sirens, bright lights, etc. They are actually repellents. They hit on the face. Notifications and signals via GSM, dial-up internet access, IoT, all these things, etc. As far as badges are concerned, you look at identification proofs, clear pictures, RFID, magnetic stripes, biometrics, so that you are able to identify the person as he walks through without creating any embarrassment to the person who is walking into the area. Then comes the area where you look at smarter physical control. We've talked about automated physical controls. You need to now think of smart physical control, which is beyond a stage of this thing. This involves a convergence of physical and logical security. So it's a combo of these kind of things, so that it's more smarter in your this thing. Where do we go into this smarter world? We use technologies such as we actually tread into the future. So we could probably adopt Internet of Things, IoT. We could probably adopt machine learning. We could adopt physical security as a service, as a third-party service. So you can outsource physical security activity to somebody else who can remotely monitor what is happening in your premises and keep you warned about this thing. When we talk about our Internet of Things, we are looking at multiple interconnected devices with a lightweight communication protocol, so that it's able to understand what's happening in the physical area or the premises. Okay, now we come to the smarter physical controls. Smarter physical control is a combo of convergence of physical and logical security. The key thing that we need to understand is how the future is going to be in physical security, what things we need to use so that we are in a safer position. When it comes today with technologies like Internet of Things, IoT, machine learning, ML, physical security as a service, all these kind of combinations will be the future. When it comes to Internet of Things, we have enormous amount of technology that is there, which uses in multiple interconnected devices with lightweight communication protocol. So they pick up and give to your command center, so you are able to know what's happening around. Machine learning is again another important area that's coming into place. It helps in recognizing human activity in the context of our scenario by collection of required real-time raw data from minimum possible number of sensors placed in the environment. So although you have identified multiple types of sensors, but with different types, different capabilities, pick up information, it learns the human activity and then is able to recognize, and based on that you can adopt it suitably to work on that. You can also have an outsourced service provider for physical security as a service, which could be a cloud-based organization who actually manages for you your on-premises security. So they are in a position to alert remotely. They are not affected at the site when a problem occurs. So they are able to do an independent thinking and provide a lot of value to the organization. So it's an opportunity from that angle, right? So when considering the next generation physical security, what would be the next generation physical security? It's intelligent monitoring. It's not just monitoring, it's intelligent monitoring. A connected set of motion detectors, audio detectors, alert systems instead of just video surveillance. Video surveillance just picks up the video, records it in DVR, and you run it thing, etc. So this is more like a much more proactive than what you are looking at. It's easier, it's faster management system with lesser operations cost because it is already a one-time infrastructure. You also have what is called as tampering alerts. Tampering alerts looks at something like, again, sensors to detect misplacement of devices. Position something somewhere, because the position of that is changed, it sends an alert saying that this has been moved from A place to B place. And therefore, this helps in vandalism in public areas. If there is a vandalism, you know where things are. Whereas in the earlier case, what was happening was, although you have a camera, you do not know where it went. But now with these kind of things, you know where, for instance, a physical ATM being moved to another location, you know where the ATM is currently located, right? So that's an advantage of, in spite of vandalism, detect skimmers added to the point of sale terminals. So all these point of sale terminals, you have IP cameras these days, digital video camera are connected via internet or internet network, which actually picks up the image and transmits to the command center or to your physical security service provider, so that he is able to see what is happening along. You can also have smartphone managed locks, which means using your smartphone, right? Smart keyless system brings easy, manageable and monitored access to limited amount of time if required, right? So you are able to control it through your mobile, what has gone out of control in the physical arena. So you are able to regain those control through this mechanism. Remote controlling of security systems and physical components. With the press of a button, obviously the administration, the admin who is working on that, can lock down or protect a particular activity that is taking place in a particular section or a particular area remotely because of the use of the advanced technologies. So in other words, A is sitting opposite to B, and there is something adverse that is happening in that location. You have a challenge that both of them do not know what is the adverse thing that is happening, but the remote person is able to sense it and can stop a particular thing or prevent or shut down a door or shut down a system or those kind of combinations, so that the action could be prevented based on the environment that is happening. These are all coming into, these are all the capabilities that you can build into smart physical control areas. You also have unlimited access to digital trail of security. Anything that has happened in the physical area, you can have a trail. You can go through the events that has happened in sequence, which is there today what you are doing manually. It can be passive, it can be active. It can be, if it is an IoT enabled mechanism, then there is intelligence that helps you to know where exactly things went wrong. You can also use it in automobile tracking, your own vehicles which are applying. When I say automobile vehicle, it could be a currency vehicle moving around, so you can track, and you can know from the, you can also have, if it is third party vehicle, license plate recognition in some countries is happening, so you can soon have it in our country as well, in any country on those particular things, based on software, based on the combination of IoT, can be applied to secure entrance gate, so that it's able to monitor which vehicle is coming, which vehicle is going out without halting them, right? Halt, check, all those things are not required. You can actually do that. You can also allow a smart parking, so that the vehicle is put into a smart parking area, right? And allow to track what is the time when it is coming out or coming in or moving out, which part of geography it has gone as per the plan or the schedule, or as per the plan or schedule, both are fine. Geofencing in physical security is another upcoming area. The goal of geofencing is to provide perimeter protection, the outer protection. When we say geofencing, a zonal office may be addressing a particular zone which covers several regions. All these regions can be integrated into a zone, and you are able to protect the perimeter based on this combination. The components involved could be beacons, RFID batches, radio waves, IP cameras, motion detectors, IoT connectivities, right? Such as BLE, MOTTs, all those stuff that is possible. What is the action that you would want to do? Enable real-time notification about perimeter breaches and approaching threats. Some of them can be used even in smart cities for intelligent command center. Technologies, they are integrated. You have a strategic positioning of sensors and other devices, easy and lightweight IoT interconnectivity, use of cloud services and data storage, machine learning model which continuously learns the environmental context to detect and find anomalies. So there is a lot of intelligence that goes into your physical finding, which actually helps you in preventive kind of a mechanism. Some of the issues will come out with future technologies when you try to use these technologies. For example, with respect to IoT, what are the issues? Visible over the internet. That means if it is visible to you over the internet, somebody else can also see that if possible. Default passwords and insecure implementation leading to malware infections is applicable. Therefore, denial of distributed services attack is also possible the moment you touch IoT. It can also disturb your privacy issues because these devices collect sensitive data of what is happening around, right? It may not be the content, but this data is also sensitive, that what has moved from where, when, how, etc. So that itself is a bigger this thing. And therefore, attack vectors in IoT protocols, when implemented, if you have configured incorrectly any of these vectors, is going to cause a serious threat. So the challenge of using the futuristic technology has a lot of advantages, but any negligence in understanding and using it not appropriately can cause serious concerns. Some issues with machine learning could include overfitting due to inadequate data sample. The data samples are traditional data sample, not normal data sample, or if it is abnormal, right? During the model learning phase, that can also have an impact on machine learning because the program learns something that is not normal, which is not meaningful. Inaccurate data samples leading to incorrect results in real time. That's again another serious concern with machine learning. Possible false positives and true negatives are also possible because it's a machine, it just learns what has happened. An incident may not be a normal one, so it has gathered that, and if it has occurred frequently for a temporary period, it picks up that as a key thing, right, which may not be a real key thing. Or something that has been happening routinely has not been happening for last 3-4 days. The machine learns that it will never happen, kind of a thing, and will give a low priority on that, which can also be a serious concern in machine learning components. So therefore, possible false positives and true negatives, prone to adversarial machine learning, wrong inputs given by adversary to ruin the machine learning. Somebody can infuse machine learning to learn something that is not really the normal thing, right, as I mentioned, or intercept and retrieve the raw data, including the camera captured pictures and videos, and could also get resubstituted with a different kind of data and cause an impact on the machine learning situations. So these are concerns with the future. Some of the unchanged concerns, that means these concerns are going to exist even if you have gone for a smart physical control, futuristic physical controls. Some of the concerns are going to be there. For example, these are insider threat and safety, and they will continue to exist. For example, bring your own device, whatever threat it has, it's going to continue with all these advanced technologies like data leak, malicious injections, ransomware, rootkit, malware. They are all possible. Remote accesses, virtual private networks could be intercepted, internal servers can compromised, jamming and tampering of signals to disallow access to crucial times, at crucial times. All these are again possible in this. Third-party vendors, equipment tampering to collect or manipulate sensor data is also possible. They are anyway normal insider threat. Lack of awareness, delay in response and countermeasure during a crisis, not conforming to the policies and procedures, which has been happening even in normal case, will have an impact in the smarter case as well, leading to the hazards that is expected. We also have the life and environmental safety. Physical security looks at the people security and also the environmental safety. The employee safety and privacy, in terms of employee safety and privacy, only required data collected and stored. It will store only those things. Aggregation and clustering machine learning protects to some extent because keeps this information. Uninterruptible power supply, which means UPS system. The noise due to electromagnetic interference and radio frequency interference, RFI, may affect the interconnected device communication. So this is also a contributor to the challenge, which will continue to remain in the advanced technology. Heating, ventilation and air conditioning system, which also has the traditional issues. So those issues will continue. For example, drastic climatic changes, global warming, more number of devices involved in security today, and needs better monitoring and maintenance. This also will have a challenge. Fire and fire extinguishers, fire awareness and safety awareness training should be mandatory because they are all part of the physical security team who addresses that. Water suppression and gas discharge systems, again, although automated, will have its own concerns based on those things. I just mentioned about 2 quotes of the future from on the physical security journal journalist and also from the physical security marketing director. The first one is, in spite of fear of security breaches, companies will need to gravitate towards IoT security enabled physical security or cloud based access control in order to compete and stay future ready, because future ready is something which is very important, and therefore one has to really move into the smart physical security from the traditional automated physical security. The IoT offers a way to improve our physical security and access control systems. With IoT and cloud management, we can use our existing solutions but improve on them with scalability and system changes that are shared across the networks in real time. So this is another important factor which is very much needed for tomorrow's security guarding. One might come up with some crucial questions. How far is physical security extended? With IoT and machine learning adversary gets many small attack surfaces, potential enough to enter the premises. Yes, it is going to be there. Reverse engineering of IoT is not difficult, so that challenge is going to be there, because IoT has a lot of advantages. Reverse engineering of IoT is very, very easy. The more complex we go, the more easier it is to address. Technology linked internet, hence it is all possible to have all internet issues applicable for this futuristic technology, because you are depending on cloud, you are depending on internet. So whatever is the vulnerabilities of internet capabilities are going to be there in this area. Same would be for IoT devices. If it gets outdated, it will get outdated frequently, because IoT is an area where Internet of Things will become Internet of Everything. As it migrates, the kind of devices that is going to be used for enhancing the capability of smartness and understanding and supporting machine learnings of the future, there will always be changes in technology. So there is going to be a continual change in devices itself, and therefore the application, and therefore the mechanism to monitor. But the overall smart physical security enablement will be a must, because of the nature of threats that are penetrating into this area. Well, the question that come up from the audience is, will the attack be a frequent attack, or will it be a complex attack? When it comes to physical security, any attacker will need to do a lot of planning. Obviously, when there is planning, and since it's an attack on the futuristic technology, which is smart physical control technologies, it will need what is called as a serious investment. With today's technology of monitoring capabilities, it is very easy to detect. Sometimes it is also, one can prevent it by noticing what is happening. Therefore, an attacker would time it very well based on a substantial time investment on the practices of the organization, so that he knows that which is the best time, which is this thing, and therefore to go through a complex capability is much more easier and worthwhile, rather than going for a simpler thing and trying to spend more time. For an attacker of the future, time window will be less, and therefore value realization has to be high. So any amount of attack should lead to a purpose of either destruction of the entity or sabotaging that entity, because it's physical area, right? And also paralyze the transaction mechanism or the operational mechanism. So if I'm an airline industry, if I geoparadize the communication, geoparadize the operations, then the business will collapse. Same is true for a financial institutions. If I am able to geoparadize entry exit point, if I lock up certain people into this thing, or if I lock up some functional, this thing is going to have this thing. All these complexities can be overcome. The time window will be small, right, and the attack will be very deep, causing a severe damage. And therefore, it's very important that one really goes into, if one is not prepared for this smart security framework and just remain with the present automated physical security framework, they are going to have a serious trouble. The question here is to look at how do you address the internal attacks which are possible for a security area. The challenge is, my personal opinion is, we trust our employees, should be our banner, rather than telling that we have to investigate those people. When do we trust our people? When we take our employees into the organization, we screen them, we do a background check. So if we have taken them, that means we have already done our due diligence in identifying people who would not be tempted to do any this thing. An easy exposure or external person's motivation or incentive provoking an internal person to do a particular act would be a challenge. Now for this, what one does is, you look at the behavioral pattern of the person during your physical scanning, everyday entry point, exit point, etc. And your machine learning mechanism is able to understand the behavioral aspect and see what is normal versus abnormal. Any abnormality that you see in a person's behavior in the organization, not in terms, he may not be quiet, he may not be shouting, he may not be doing, but when I say behavioral, it means that the pattern of abnormality that you see from the normal behavior, one should be able to identify that is he planning something, is he working with another internal person, or is he working with some external person, or is he working with some threat. So all these behavioral pattern helps us to know these kind of things, and therefore based on that you could actually get HR, human resource, to involve in identifying such people and identify before an act takes place, counsel or do a socialistic study, so that you are able to correct what is happening before an event, right? So a threat of sabotaging, a threat of stealing, threat of doing a opening, all this will flow out if you are able to identify such kind of behavioral pattern. So obviously the smart mechanism of physical study of people, employees, empowers the person to maintains the dignity of the employee. At the same time, you also are able to isolate the person and his team or group of people who could be involved in certain kind of sabotage activity or threat activity, and try to avert these things by diffusing or diluting those cases. There are many techniques. Somebody can be transferred, somebody can be sent on an assignment overseas or other country. So there are different kind of techniques where you actually segregate so that the behavioral pattern collapses and changes to something, right? So you look at the competency of the person, utilize that competency to the benefit of the organization, and diffuse an activity which could affect the organization. That's where the smartness of physical security helps in changing or altering the internal threats, diffuse them on a psychological and sociological ground footing, which is a big change in terms of physical security study itself. With this, I would like to end my session on futuristic scenario in physical security requirement for the financial institutions such as banking and other areas. Thank you. All the best. Good day.